Hello, I'm Tom Simon. We've gotten a lot of questions from you about the Beijing Garden restaurant and its closing this weekend. And the questions have to do with why. Why, after so much fighting in the court, did 668 North think that they could just lock the doors? Well, first of all, you have to look at why the court ruled the way they did. And Jack Willencheck, our attorney, has been spending quite a bit of time in the last 24 hours putting together an appeal and a motion, what's called a motion to reconsider. This is going to go back before the judge so that he can take another look at his ruling before it's appealed. You can't actually appeal until there's a final judgment. There has not been a final judgment yet on this case, and so we have to wait for the actual final judgment to appeal. But Jack has put together a motion for reconsideration, which will be hand-delivered to the court on Monday afternoon. Now, key to this motion to reconsideration is what's called a mirror image rule. And that, well, we'll explain that in just a moment, but as we told you in another broadcast, the reason that Beijing Garden lost this case in the first place is because the court ruled that he added two words, the word "three" and the word "or," to his offer to extend his 5-year lease agreement for another 5 years. He had an option which gave him the right to extend that lease for 5 years. When he sent the letter saying he wanted to do that, he also gave the landlord the option to make it a 3-year lease instead of a 5 if he wanted to. The judge said that that negated his offer altogether, as if to say that because he said he'd do a 3-year, he wouldn't do a 5-year, but that's not what he said. He said, I'll do a 3 or a 5-year option. So let me read to you just a little bit about in Jack's motion to reconsider. Keep in mind this will not be filed until Monday afternoon. And Jack says the court misapplied the mirror image rule. He says the court concluded that no agreement was reached because the 3 or 5 notice did not match the offer of 5. The court clearly misapplied the mirror image rule, which does not make an acceptance defective merely because it contains different terms from the offer. Now, Jack went on to say in this that the different terms must be a condition to the acceptance, turning it into a counter offer. So if Chef Tian would have said, hey, I only want a 3-year deal, even though I have a 5-year option, that would have been making the 3-year conditional to the offer, and that would have been illegal. But he didn't do that. He said, I'll take a 3-year or a 5-year, which means that 668 North should have been required to accept it. I'm going to drop down now. This is a 5-page motion to reconsider, lots of legalese in here. But I want to read you the conclusion that Jack made, and this will be filed with the court on Monday. Keep in mind that some of it could change a little bit as he nips and tucks away at this particular motion to reconsider. But his conclusion says this: the court must correct its clear error on the application of the mirror image rule to the 3 or 5 acceptance, as well as its failure to take evidence regarding the equitable estoppel issue above. Because Jack C. is upset that the court made that ruling on the 3 or 5, but didn't ask him any questions when we had the hearing about that 3 or 5. So there was no way to know that the court was thinking negatively about Chef T and offering that 3 or 5. The court voiced no objection, Jack says, about the 3 or 5 issue at the hearing, but it clearly misapplied with disastrous consequences the mirror image rule for the first time in this ruling. Tenant asked for an immediate hearing on this motion because the tenant will continue to suffer immediate, permanent, and severe harm if this motion is not granted, and there is no equally speedy means of correcting the court's clear error. So that is the conclusion to the motion for reconsideration that will go before the court in Chef Tian's Beijing Gardens case Monday afternoon. Hopefully we'll hear something fairly soon on that. Until then, we're going to keep you up to date on all the things that are going on at the Chinese Cultural Center.